Do what you want to do and don't worry about anyone else, what anyone else thinks or making anyone else happy. If you make you happy and really go for what you want, everything else will just be absolutely beautiful in your life.
Hi, I'm Michelle Bosch, real estate investor, mom, wife, and host of the InFLOW podcast. And I'm passionate about helping women invest in land and apartments. Join me each and every week for real estate investing strategies and interviews with thought leaders that will leave you inspired and ready to step into flow for inflows of cash, inflows of ease, and inflows of grace in your life. Now, here on YouTube are the video versions of my podcast, and in order for you to get my latest information, please go ahead and subscribe. And now, let's go. Welcome to the InFLOW podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Bosch. Super excited to have a very dear friend of mine here with me today. Her name is Stacy. I met Stacy a couple of years ago in a mastermind that I belong of, high caliber women, 7-figure business owners, all women. And I was so impressed by her business acumen, by just the breadth of knowledge and the experiences that she has had so far. I'm not saying that I'm old, but I think you're even younger than me. So without further ado, let me introduce Stacy Bahrenfuss, right?
Yes.
Because Jack is always pronouncing your last name like he would in German, because he's like, that is such a German last name.
Yes. Oh, I'm so happy to be here, Michelle. It's seriously an honor. And I'm going to have to ask Jack how to say it in German and if it really means barefoot, because that's what they tell me.
Yeah. So, and just so that you guys know a little bit about Stacy, Stacy is the founder and CEO of the Catalyst Group. And the creator of the Limitless Realtor Circle. That's a professional training for realtors. And she also started her real estate company at a very young age, at 19, which is incredibly impressive. I'm going to ask you about that later on, Stacy. She sustained her company, through the crisis, through the recession of 2008. And she really continued to scale even throughout that period of time, her business to 7 figures. She has also, led high-performing teams in the state of Idaho. She brings a unique perspective, in my opinion, to real estate, because she also is a designated broker and has also, gone into her own little, project or expansion or growing opportunity of even, buying and developing her own, development project. I think of 11 luxury homes in Idaho. And that kind of like paved the way for you to, not just be on the real estate as in like a realtor, representing 2 parties, but actually being an investor yourself. And I know that you're also leveraging a lot of intuition, a lot of mindfulness techniques that you have learned during, your travels through India, because I know she's traveled to India as well. I'm just wanting to, chat for you to tell me a little bit more about that. But first, let's start with the fact that you started at 19 and you started building your business. And at 19, I was nowhere near that point of saying, okay, I'm ready to start a business and become an entrepreneur. So how did you grow up around money such that by 19, you're ready to start?
Yes. So it's interesting because my environment growing up was not one that we discussed money often. In fact, the one conversation I remember with my mother was when I received a checkbook. It was like a kit, and you learned, how to write a check. And that was the one conversation that I remember. And so when I was applying, it actually started when I was 17. I was a senior in high school and joking around with some friends that I was going to apply as a salesperson at a local real estate office and resort real estate office. And they ended up hiring me as an admin assistant to one of the coordinators. And that is when I was exposed to the business world, because growing up, we just didn't have those kinds of conversations. Mm-hmm. What I did have though, growing up, was I was responsible for for everyone, emotionally, and the brothers and everything. And so that instilled in me that, it starts and stops with me. And if I want to create the life that I, envision, there's no better time than right now to do it. And so I started, like I said, as an admin at the office, and just knew that there was a gap in the industry that I could fill, and wanted to pursue real estate to do that. And I saw, just an ability to help people at a different level, provide better customer service to people than what I was exposed to originally. It was so busy. It was 2005, 2006, and, agents weren't calling their clients back. And it was just a lot of those experiences that I saw I could provide a better experience. And so then got licensed later at 19 and started the journey from there.
Amazing. Now, what were the biggest challenges that you faced starting at such a young age, and considering that it's 2006, 2 years into it, the market turns. And so what were some of the biggest challenges back then?
Yes.
I'm just trying to see, because we're right now in the middle of a pandemic and economic downturn like we've never seen before. And so how can we bring some of what perhaps you've learned over there to now?
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing was running it like a business, right? And I think that's the thing that I did from day one that I still do today, which is why, we were thriving through the pandemic as well, which is knowing what your target is and breaking down those action steps and relentlessly executing on those steps. And that's what I did, back then, which was key to my success and the ability to build the business at that young age. I didn't have a network at that point. I was new to the area, and I just cast out that, net. It was get as many fish as possible. And by doing that, allowed me to work with for sale by owners, builders, expired listings, and build a business quickly. And then once it got to a certain point, narrow in on what I enjoyed most and build the business, from that point.
And what is it that you enjoy most?
So it definitely is the development builder side of it. And I love working with sellers, it was sellers and builders, developers was my niche.
Your sweet spot. Absolutely. Yeah, I got it. Now when I was introducing you, in your bio there, you're used to working and you love working with peak performers, whether it be realtors, whether it be now, high 7-figure leaders, entrepreneurs in whatever industry, that is something that you really are passionate about, peak performance. And can you tell me, what are some of the things or strategies that you employ to really, help a person if, even if you're a beginning entrepreneur or a high 7-figure, what are those distinctions that you are able to make? Like, what are some of those strategies?
Yes. So number one is leveraging my intuition to see the truth of what's going on in the individual and help them and guide them so that they can discover that truth and get to the bottom, the root of whatever is going on. Because so often these strategies, these tactics that we're taught, it's a Band-Aid. It really doesn't address the lower issue, that if you can just pull that root, you can build from a beautiful inner state, a calm inner state. And so that's number one, is leveraging that piece and relating to the individual in such a deep level of compassion and understanding that there is, that safety and security that's created immediately. And then from there, I blend energetic work, the spiritual side, with, strategies and tactics such as, whatever goal it is and achieving the goal, right?
Like I was going to say, can you give us an example of like a real breakthrough, that you've been able to, help someone go through it, or just the typical things so that we can kind of relate and we're like, okay, that resonates. I've been there. I've done that,
Yes, absolutely. So a lot of times as women, we're creating from a fear state, or we want to prove ourselves in some way, or if we can prove ourselves, we can come out of hiding, right? And finally express ourselves. There's that deep feeling within us. So an example of a breakthrough was I was working with a woman, and she's just a dynamo, powerful, just powerhouse salesperson. And she had some issues with her mother that was going on since she was very young. And it literally, by having a conversation in one afternoon about the situation that had happened with her mom, and that relationship that was broken and was not being nurtured or communicated with, was holding back her ability to sell. And I remember that month. I'll always remember it. She was 19 at the time, which of course I'm passionate about that age, right? And we discussed it. And that next month she went on to sell 6 upper tier houses, and in 1 month. And so it's just those little things, by getting to the root and connecting with our source, that we can then, in that person, I can empower them to tap into their intuition, which the sky's the limit. That's why, limitless is such a powerful word to me, and my word, because it's anything is possible once you're connected.
You really kind of get, remove the lid of, or the feeling that is stopping you. And, I would say 80% of the time when, somebody comes to us for coaching on the land flipping side, they've put a property under contract, they've tried to market it, they try to sell it, and for some reason it isn't selling. And sometimes it's not about, oh my gosh, your listing is missing this tactic or is missing this attention grabbing headline. It's none of that. It's like you said, it's a mindset. It's something in the energy and and how you're pouring yourself into that work that is really kind of like, stopping the floodgates from just, pouring through. So I totally get what you're saying, because we see that time and time again, within our own, coaching program, and people don't recognize that, that sometimes it could be something so unrelated that the not selling something like a piece of real estate is only a symptom. And some people probably think, the very left brain analytical ones, that this is kind of like crazy and baloney, that there's a way to make that sale happen. And yeah, you could make it happen, but it's going to be forceful and with a ton of resistance, versus, like you said, with peace, with calm, with ease. Once you have kind of like unleashed that inner thing that was stopping you from, not just doing that one, but many, many more opportunities into the future as well. So totally relate that. Stacy, is there a relationship that has been incredibly impactful in your life, and how has that relationship kind of shaped you or changed you?
Yes. So my stepfather came into my life when I was 16, and he just completely embraced me, like no questions asked, went all in. And he, from a business standpoint and risk standpoint, which is why I will definitely go for all things, at this point, he said to me, what's the worst that can happen? If you go and because at the time I wanted to buy my first house before I was 20. That was my thing, and I remember him saying to me, what's the worst that can happen? If you lose everything, you can rebuild it. Now, I'm not saying that that's how you should live, right? But just the ability and that it's okay to fail, because you're going to learn the most when you do it that way. And
we're also scared because we're programmed from little to not make mistakes. Yeah,
exactly. Yes. And so because my father, I absolutely was, raised to be a good girl, and, perfection is most important and all of that good stuff. It was so refreshing for me to feel like I could be free and express myself by, going for what I really wanted.
Is that how you decide someday to go to India? By just, let's just pick up my bags and go somewhere. How does that happen?
Yes. Yeah. So that's an interesting story. So it was 2010, and I had two different real estate agents that were not connected at all. That in my life, they were saying I should go and get this oneness blessing. And it was a little too woo-woo for me at the time. I was like, what's this blessing? And because anytime something that, coincidental happens, I'm like, okay, there's something here for me. So I followed that and went and did this blessing. And that is when everything changed for me. I experienced that, and that oneness blessing comes out of O&O Academy, which is the wisdom school in India that I then went to later on. And so what was interesting about it is I booked my first trip to India in 2013, but I didn't end up going until 2016 because something came up and, I wasn't ready. But going to India, by myself, all of that, I mean, definitely was probably a part of I call him Poppy, my stepdad, his impact on me and just the ability to go for it. But, my mom also instilled in me, you can do anything you set your mind to, nothing to it. She had that attitude. So definitely both were great to get me to go to India.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And does that shape in any way or form now the work that you do with high performers, with leaders, of seven-figure companies and so on? How does that all come together?
Yes. So everything that I learned in India is so, profound, and the mixing that with the modern science and just the results oriented coaching that's available is where the magic happens. And the reason is because it's lasting change when you get to the core of whatever's going on, like I said earlier, and you come from a different state, because most of the time people are not coming from their truth, right? They're running from something, even if it's something that's not even real, like fear, they're still running from it, and it's unconscious. And so the work that I did in India is so brilliant because it allows me to bring in a consciousness aspect to the work that I'm doing, which, like I said, it makes it lasting. And it not only affects the individual, what's so beautiful about the work is that their families change, their businesses change. I mean, and it is just a complete ripple effect that's incredible.
Yeah, because it's not something that you've only experimented, with yourself. You then brought this to your high performance, team at your brokerage. And what kind of results did you see there?
Huge difference in how they perform. And what's really interesting is the intuitive in me is really, really powerful when I start to, work with someone. And I brought that in on multiple occasions. And I mean, sometimes, would wake up like in the middle of the night and have a download, is what I call it, to share with this person. And it ends up, becoming something huge that they needed to address in their life. And so it's a recipe for great results. And so we saw that.
Seven-figure results for sure in sales.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, because I know you are a top performer. So, and hey, if I can learn a little bit from, someone and get an edge, and all of a sudden what is your unique ability can become my strength too by tapping into your inner genius.
Yes.
For sure. Yeah.
It works.
Exactly. That is how it works. We always think that, when someone has a gift that, oh my God, I don't have it, but you really have access, to tapping into someone else's, inner genius and so on and so forth. It's just a matter of not seeing or comparing yourself as me not having it and her having it, and rather appreciating it in you and willing, to learn from you, of course. Now I want to shift a little bit gears in terms of, and ask you a little bit about your development. I know that, you built those 11 custom homes. You embarked in this multi-million-dollar project. And how did you seize that opportunity? What tools, advice can you share with others that are looking to, to go into developing? Because we do have, as part of our audience, people that don't just want to flip land, but that actually want to go on and not just do, horizontal development, but vertical development, actually put homes or build something, improve it, and really add zeros to, to their flip or to their, to their deal. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. Yeah. So the opportunity, once it crossed my desk, the reason I wanted to do it was, like everything that I do, is I want everyone to see that they can do it too. And so I received the numbers made sense, and I let the landowner know, if these numbers are what you say they are, I'll have an offer to you. So I made the offer and did not have the $1.3 million lined up at that moment, but knew I'd figure out how I wanted to package it. I still had about 6 months before the closing date, because we were still underway with the zoning and development and everything. So what I would say about that is, especially in development, there are so many surprises. And so, just plan for surprises the entire way. And I don't say that to, freak anyone out. It's more just, there isn't a way to be totally prepared. And so go into it knowing that whatever comes your way, you're going to handle it and take care of it. So, went through that process, and because I haven't done a development before, I had represented developers, worked with new construction, obviously in real estate, but hadn't personally done that. I couldn't get a bank loan without putting the majority, 50, 60% down, which didn't want to do that if I didn't have to, kind of thing, and so finally found an entity out of state that would do the financing for the ground and also the construction. And so that was all finalized end of 2018. And I started construction on the 11 houses February of 2019. And it took way longer than we were expecting. So, carrying costs.
The time horizon is a little bit, needs to be extended from a traditional, quick flip, I'm in and out in a few months.
I would absolutely say, make sure that you're planning, 18, 24 months. And then that way, if it moves quicker, great. But that is a good time frame. If you get the lots where they're finished, the buildable lots, that's the time frame. I would go a little longer if you had to do all the development. So went through that process, and from the standpoint of, taking on an investment like that, definitely for, your audience to think about those types of loans that are out there, exploring hard money, exploring, investors like you have in partnering. I definitely, would suggest look at the options of doing it yourself with partners and just see, does it make sense to lower your risk of carrying it for all these, months by yourself, or, leveraging some investors so that if it does go longer, you're prepared in that way.
Yeah, it's easier to carry.
Yes.
Now, and this is probably, now you just told me before we started, our recording here, you said, I just put the last thing, the last property under contract from this development. What have you noticed that has been counterintuitive when it comes to your ability to sell the lots, especially right now during an economic downturn and pandemic? At least the city of Phoenix right now, the market is like crazy hot. So it's either people being stuck at home, realizing, crap, we've outgrown our home, let's go move to a bigger home, or it's people like, in the land space, being stuck at home and not being able to travel, wherever they go and live the vida loca, usually during the summers. And now they're like looking for a piece of land that is 1 or 2 hours away from their home, that they can go take the family, escape the craziness of the pandemic, and bring some kind of a reset into their lives. So what have you seen when it comes to, development, especially right now?
Yes.
And the ability to sell basically the properties.
Yes. The market is incredibly hot. Our inventory is below 1.5 months. And it's just been nuts. And it's out of the 11 houses, 9 have been relocations. So only 2 people are locals here that bought in my community. But overall, that's what we're seeing. So many people, just flocking to the area. And I think it's because we had the shutdown, the reality of, oh my word, I'm going to be stuck, in this area I don't love hit them when the pandemic happened. I think that people are taking serious action and moving to where they want to be, especially because they can work from home now. So they're not, traveling as much. All of those reasons.
And right now, I think Idaho in the city of Boise is one of the fastest growing. I am actually in conversations with Stacy to start investing and looking into property in the state of Idaho. And she just sent me like a market analysis of, how that market looks and the type of growth they're experiencing in it. And I was like, wow, blown away. And it's, on top of it, very mild for seasons. So I can see why people probably are right now, crazy, looking into buying real estate up there. Now, because this podcast, Stacy, is not just about inflows of cash, and I know we briefly touched a little bit, it's about inflows of grace, inflows of faith in your life. How do you bring inflows of just grace in your life on a daily basis and basically maintain positivity? What are some of the things that if I am right now, at home listening, that you can, actionable things that I can quickly implement where I can really see them moving the needle in terms of my state of mind and going about my day?
Yes. So taking a few minutes to notice all of the good. And I have a practice I do every day. It's called the triple threat. And I write.
Let me write that down. I'm ready.
So first notice the good, but the triple threat is I write down, first I start with 3 minutes of conscious breathing. And conscious breathing to me is my inhalation is shorter than my exhalation. So it brings you to a state of calm and it's quick, right? It's
like in for 4, out for 6.
Exactly. Yep. And so that's number 1. Number 2 is I write down the 3 things I'm grateful for. And that just hones in my focus for the day. I do this practice in the morning. And then the third part of the triple threat is writing down, and I keep, the notes in front of me, but read and review my 3 short-term goals. And that keeps that focus. And I have my 3 most important long-term goals there as well. But that practice is something that is totally doable no matter what your schedule, and brings such presence.
It helps you prioritize also, like immediately, like you go from a very centered, grounded state to prioritizing almost as a time management tool with mindfulness all built into one.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I can see that. And also keeping your eye on the ball on the long-term goal, like you said, as well. Now, if someone wanted to learn more about what you're doing now with business leaders, if you're an entrepreneur or you're a beginning investor or full-time investor, and in terms of mindset, personal development, I know that you have taken a sharp right turn, that you're not just about now, bringing these strategies into your high performance team within, your brokerage, but you're about sharing this, outside of your brokerage as well with others. So where can people find more about what you're doing? And can you tell us more about what that sharp right turn has looked for you?
Yes. So, because my last name is German and long, most people call me Stacy B. And so the website where you can learn more is limitlesswithstacyb.com. Okay. The sharp right turn has been, thinking about and reflecting on all of my life. I remember being in 7th grade at a volleyball camp and everyone was freaking out, and I called everyone in a circle and I sat them down and told them to meditate. And I don't know where I got that or what, but it's just been a part of my life. Mm-hmm. So that absolutely is my zone of genius. And so bringing that to high performing women leaders and, those change makers, influencers, that by them operating at a higher level of consciousness, it raises the bar and raises consciousness for everyone else that they're impacting, so much. That is absolutely my passion. So that's that right turn to, really work with them so that they can see their inner truth and start operating from that place and be successful with such ease and grace and accelerate their results and be happy and fulfilled during that process. So that's the sharp right turn that I've taken.
That's beautiful. Do you have a Facebook community by chance, Stacy, where you do any, live trainings or anything that is going on?
Yes, that is going to be coming your way. So I can send you that link after that. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I was wondering.
I think you have to be in it.
Wonderful. Well, just to leave also our audience, one last piece of advice that you would have for women either starting out like you were when you started at 19, or a woman that is already right now in business. What is one piece of advice that you would leave them with right now?
Do what you want to do and don't worry about anyone else, what anyone else thinks or making anyone else happy. If you make you happy and really go for what you want, everything else will just be absolutely beautiful in your life.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. I agree. We're just sometimes, a little bit scared of our own potential,
Yes, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Stacy. It has been an honor having you here with me on InFLOW today. I can't wait to hear more about this, community that is starting soon. And I am going to start incorporating the triple thread. I'm doing some elements, but they're being disjointed. I'm doing my gratitude at the end of the day versus at the beginning. I'm doing my breath work in the beginning and at the end. And I'm looking at my short term, and what I call farm club, which is longer term goals. But once I have gotten to my desk versus it being like a one time, punch with all three at once. So I can see how in that relaxed, inspired state, you can go about getting into the flow and becoming much more effective and getting, whatever it is, that project that you need to work on that day, be done in a much more harmonious versus forceful way. You know what I mean? Without much resistance. So thank you so much.
Yes.
And,
thank you.
Yes, the same. And for anyone listening, if you enjoyed our show today with Stacy, or you just enjoy listening to, the InFLOW podcast, make sure you leave us a review, a 5-star review on iTunes. It helps me, get more women engaged. And if you are also interested in learning more about Stacy, you can go again to Limitless with stacyb.com. If you are in our land flipping community, know that we have a 5-day land profit lab coming up on September 14. We start, and we're basically walking you through the steps from A to Z on how to flip your first piece of land in 90 days or less and really be able to create quantum leaps still in the last 5 months that we have of 2020. So thank you very much, Stacy. It was an honor. Thank you, everyone listening, and until the next time.
I hope this episode left you feeling inspired and ready to get inflows of cash, inflows of light, and inflows of faith in your life. I welcome your reviews on iTunes. Please leave me a review and help me create an amazing community of women in flow. Thank you, as always, for sharing your voice by going to michellebosch.com and joining the conversation about this show. And while you're there, grab a copy of my 10 Commandments to Living a Life in Flow. You can also follow me on Facebook at Michelle Bosch and on Instagram at Michelle Bosch Official. Thank you very much, and until the next one.